This is not a get rich quick world. Real estate is not. You might get lucky and get one property that appreciates real fast or something like that, but you need to change your mindset. I think making decisions that have 10-year horizons on them will produce over and over again a more valuable asset.
He doesn't want you to settle for just financial returns. He wants you to invest in your future, earn passive income, and amplify your gains by prioritizing environmental and social impact. John Weiskopf. Welcome to the Build It to Billions podcast, where we guide successful entrepreneurs and investors on their journey from millions to billions. We believe that the key to scaling your business and compounding your wealth starts every day with a mindset and practice of stewardship over ownership and applying billionaire biblical principles. Our ultimate goal: to help you scale and compound your wealth and life so you can give more or all of it away for MVPs. Hey, I'm your host today, Brett Swartz. And every episode, we feature some of the world's top entrepreneurs, millionaires, and billionaires. They share their principles, values, secrets, and wisdom, providing each of us with the insights we need to reach the next level of faith, success, and impact. Hey, I'm excited about our next guest. He's out of the great state of Wisconsin, and he doesn't want you to settle for just financial returns. He wants you to invest in your future, earn passive income, and amplify your gains by prioritizing environmental and social impact. We're going to talk about building your wealth, and we're about to talk about shaping the future today. In fact, the title of the podcast is along those lines of just this: building environmental and social impact wealth. Please welcome to the show with me, Mr. John Weiskopf. John, how are we doing?
Brett, I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me. I'm excited. It's a happy Monday morning.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. And for our listeners getting to know you for the first time, would you give us just a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Sure. Let's see. I started off 20 years ago, and I went to graduated engineering school and wanted to be a race car driver, race car engineer for Ferrari, big into Formula One. That didn't pan out. Somehow landed on a job doing HVAC design for commercial properties and commercial buildings. And for the next 20 years, I did all of that. I spent 10 years running the engineering program for Apple Retail, and had the luxury of flying all over the world, seeing different cultures and how they do construction and build beautiful things. Apple, if you know their stores, beautiful things. And about 2 years ago, enough was enough. It was time to really take myself to the next level. And so I started Blue Eyed Capital, named after my son and my wife. And it's a way for me to take all of my learnings and my skills and my really desire of sustainability and doing more for human good and humanity as a whole, and bring that into what I see as just the biggest untapped resource of impact, which is multifamily properties, whether that's mobile home parks, apartment buildings, any type of property that is really focused on that affordable housing sector.
Amazing. And I love the way you put it: desire to sustainability and making an impact for the housing crisis, which is happening right now, using multifamily and using mobile home parks as a way to obtain that. And what a cool background with Apple. And so, I believe we've all been given certain gifts in this life, John, and these gifts have been given to us to be blessing and help to others. I'm curious, what would you say is John's superpower or gift that you feel like, as a kid, like you just kind of had it? And then how do you use that gift today to bless and help people?
Ooh, good question. I always had a knack for how things worked. And it was more about the optimization of things. I love Formula One because it's not just the best car that wins or the fastest car. It's the best team. It's the best overall system, right? There's all these components and things in life that have to go together. And so we all try to prioritize being good at one thing, and it's important. But I think looking at things as a sum of parts has really been my expertise within the building, commercial real estate, and engineering field. And it's allowed me to bring high performance to a lot of my clients, including Apple. And so I'm trying to do that in multifamily. I think it's a kind of it's an old industry, and it needs some revitalization, for lack of better words.
Absolutely. Going from one of the most beautiful products and stores and maybe in the history of retail, right, and of electronics, and bringing it to kind of an old dog, new trick type of commercial real estate, multifamily, type of properties. Love it. And so, in fact, let's dive right into that, with that at hand, with how things work, optimizing them as it pertains to multifamily. So, what's the number one secret to building environmentally and social impact wealth in multifamily?
I think a lot of individuals look at sustainability as a prize or a nomenclature that I can put onto my buildings. And I like to take the focus of sustainability is resilience. And if we look at where the world is going and just some of the things that are happening, look at Texas. In the last 4 years, two major climatic events that have impacted individuals, families, what have you. And I like to look at things from a different perspective when we talk about return on investment. And sometimes it's looking at what are my avoided costs? And so my belief and my feeling and the way that I function is resiliency is my protection against avoided cost. So take a power outage at a property, Brett, right? It's not just a pain in the butt, right? Or the pain in the ASS. It is residents with food that failed. And when you talk about affordability in the affordability sector, that's a week's worth of pay for somebody. That's the difference of somebody having food for their family and paying rent, or somebody having to make a decision about which one they're going to pay. And if it's me, I'm putting food on my family's table first. I'm not paying rent, right? And so it's things like that, failure of systems because you don't have power and other things. And if we think more about what we're avoiding than what we're getting out of something, as our world changes and our global landscape changes from climate to affordability, and my belief is things are only getting worse. I don't see things heading in the right direction for all of us. That these small little improvements, from high efficiency air conditioning to solar panels to resilient buildings where you're paying attention to the building itself, right? 10 years down the line, you will have a more profitable asset prepared for these events than somebody that is not paying attention, that is only looking at the cosmetics and the rent growth that they can get out of a property.
Okay, make
A
sure I got that here.
long-winded,
Okay,
sorry about that.
yeah, it's a good answer. Let me show you we got it right. So, looking at sustainability in a different way, I guess think different like Apple, right? Instead of sustainability as a prize, think of it as really the resilience, or a better way to think about it, perhaps, is to protect against fundamental material like system failure, right? Like the things like power outage that are going to be fundamental. So, really breaking it down to like, how things works and what are the most important things, and think about sustainability as resilience. Is that a fair summary of what you said just so far?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Excellent. So what is secret number two to making sure that you're building environmentally and socially impact a wealth in multifamily?
People. None of us, any apartment owner, whether it's a single family home that you rent out or a mobile home park or a Class A property, the people that pay rent at your property are the reason why you are either profitable or not profitable. And so making those individuals important when it comes to your business has to be a major focus of your business, right? We all say the client comes first. But I think sometimes in multifamily world and residential, at least in what I've seen over my short time in it, is that piece is kind of forgotten or maybe taken for granted a little bit too much. And so, especially when you're looking at the affordable housing sector, right? Those individuals have been taken advantage of. Those individuals have been stressed at times and gone through different expense and experiences than somebody in the Class A property whose demands and expectations are a beautiful building, flowers on the table when you walk in, somebody saying hi to them when you walk in. These other individuals, they didn't grow up to respect their property because nobody respected them. Nobody respected the properties they lived in. And so how do you change that mindset to create a community, to have residents that stay and renew their lease year after year after year? One of the biggest expenses we see is turnovers, people leaving. And some people leave in an unfriendly manner and put holes in walls and things like that. And could we have avoided that? That's kind of the question that we try to ask ourselves from the social perspective, which I think honestly is almost more important than the environmental.
Absolutely. So it sounds like focusing on respect for people, respect for the property, and building a culture and a community of respect that helps to not only keep people in the property, which is financially great, but also helps people to feel more at home, which is, means they're going to want to stay in the property, right? Is that a fair summary?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
love that. What's secret number three to kind of building environmentally and socially impact wealth in multifamily?
Thinking long term. Get out of the what I'm going to make in a year. This is not a get rich quick world. Real estate is not. You might get lucky and get one property that appreciates real fast or something like that, but you need to change your mindset. And I would say that's even for individuals out there who are investing in a 5 year deal or a 3 to 5 year deal. I think making decisions that have 10 year horizons on them again will produce over and over again a more valuable asset.
100%. So thinking long term, thinking thinking about not only just long term for the investment, but really long term for the tenants, long term for the systems, long term for the returns. Right? All of these things are take time. I was in an interview just a minute ago, actually, before you came on, and he talked about the entrepreneur typically has three major traits, or the ones that are really focused on impact, do at least, right? A, they're meant for something really big, like something bigger than just, their W-2, bigger than just, they feel like they're called to something bigger than just themselves, building something that's going to be sustainable. It's going to make a huge impact. Number two, each of them have a, maybe, I don't know if it's a complex or just a thought, or at some point in their life they weren't good enough, right, or just settling for good enough wasn't good enough, right, as well. They have a stewardship mindset, that I have certain gifts, I have certain talents, I have certain things that I can give to the world, and I don't want to settle for good enough is just good enough. And number three, they have impulse control, right? It kind of goes into their long term thinking here, right, that they're willing to delay gratification. And those three combined is the superpower of the entrepreneur. Any thoughts on that, John? As I kind of unwind those. I agree with you. I think as entrepreneurs, it's part of the disciplines. It's part of building the systems. It's part of building the leadership and the mentorship and the coaches around us to help us get clarity to not jump at the next vehicle, but stay in the vehicle, to dive deep into the vehicle, work through the challenges and the systems and the processes and get the right people on board to really get momentum moving forward. By the way, John Wooden has a cool quote, a really amazing quote. He says, "Peace of success." He's defining success. Success, according to John Wooden, is peace of mind of knowing that you gave your very best, that you were capable of giving, basically in the given circumstances, right? That you gave your absolute best. So, like your mom saying, "Hey, you got to be right, but don't settle." Like, so something inside was telling her, perhaps John is settling, right, not giving his very best. I know that's kind of what I went through too. My mom would pay us for A's and pay us for B's. We didn't get paid for C's, but she goes, but she really wanted all A's. Now, my brother and I were the first to graduate from college from either side of the family, right? To go from working just the W-2 or working, just hard labor building real estate to using our minds, right? To kind of taking that shift. And so my mom would say the same things, right? Don't settle. But I love that John Wooden, perhaps one of the most respected, amazing coaches in the history of all coaches in all sports, said winning wasn't the definition of success. He would have games and teams that would win, but did they maximize their potential? Did they give it their absolutely best, right, to win that championship? And he says, I'd had teams that would win a championship, but I felt like the other ones were perhaps even more successful when they lost the championship because they maximized their potential to their very best, and the other team was just flat out better, right, overall. And so he talked about that concept, and I'm trying to teach that to my kids. So, what does that mean to you, John, to give your very best and have that peace of mind knowing that you've given your very best in the things that you're doing? I love this. And by the way, I was just out in a leadership, 30-minute of leadership. I jumped on with a guy named Bill Pipes, and Bill was talking about Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, and Michael Jordan's coach. I think it's Tim Grover, and he wrote a book called Relentless, right? And what he studied was Kobe, Michael, and LeBron's basically their relationship to failure, right? And he asked us to say and so, and Bill was at an event and Tim was talking or something, and I don't know, they talked and basically said like talk to me about failure. And he said, first of all, what's my relationship to it? So I think as entrepreneurs, as people that are driving forward, trying to make an impact, trying to make a difference, we got to ask ourselves, what is my relationship to failure? And what's my energetic response to it? Like, what is the natural energy that I respond to it? And he talked about that failure should sting, right? Failure should sting, right? When it stings, we pay attention, right? And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. And what Grover said in Relentless is when Kobe or Jordan would get knocked down, they would stay down for a little bit. They'd let it sting, right? And he brought out this story of Kobe and his kind of his prime, and Jordan kind of on his close to retirement. And Kobe is playing on the Los Angeles Lakers to Michael Jordan on the Wizards, okay? And Michael has a great night. Michael's team wins, or at least Michael outperforms Kobe, and like I'm pretty sure they won. And basically after the game, and before the game too, Kobe, he's looked up to Jordan his whole life, right? He's emulated Jordan. He tries to, be better than Jordan. He wants to be better than Jordan. He's chasing after this, the perfection, chasing after the best. And he has a tremendous work ethic. And so that night he's wearing Jordan shoes. And Jordan, everyone wears Jordans growing up, especially playing basketball. So he's wearing them, and as a way to like respect and honor Jordan, and he's wearing his shoes. Anyways, Jordan gets the best of him that night. The Wizards won. After the game, Jordan says to him, "Hey, you can wear the shoes, but you'll never fill them." Okay. And he said Kobe went silent. He didn't go silent for 2 hours or 2 days. He went silent for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, he didn't say a word to anybody in practice, at home, for all we know, right? And he was silent for 2 weeks. He let it just sink deep, right? And fast forward, he went, and by the way, let me finish the story in a second here. Tim said Grover, the coach of guys, would ask him these questions, would ask Jordan to say this thing and Kobe to say this thing, LeBron, right? How am I responsible is the first question you ask, kind of what you just said, right? How am I responsible? Regardless of what happened, regardless of the failure, or regardless of where your natural inclination goes to, well, it was 50-50 or it was 60-40 or it was 99-1 or whatever it was, you got to own how are you responsible? How am I responsible, right? Number two, what were the actions that I took that created this? What were the actions that I took that created this? Whether not preparing, not planning, not giving my very best at a certain point, you did something that created this outcome, right? And then number three, what is the lesson in the failure? And this is the key here, the last one. How will I adjust my approach? How will I adjust my approach so that this never happens again? So this never happens again, right? And so these are the things that he'd bring him through that. And so fast forward with Kobe Bryant, after those 2 weeks of intense training and practice, he comes back and they play the Lakers on another night. And this time Kobe dominates Jordan, okay? Dominates him, the Lakers win, and afterwards it was kind of a passing of the baton, right? Jordan wasn't out to hurt Kobe when he said that. He was out there to help drive him to be the best, which is what made Jordan the best, is he drove others to be the best. He was willing to step into that really intense, emotional, even that it would sting people, right? But it would drive them to be the best, right? And so they shake hands, and basically it's a way of like Jordan kind of passing the baton to Kobe, and that's the story. But I mean, my thoughts are what I just said about this, but I'm curious, what are your thoughts on all of that? Wow. I want to pull out some nuggets there, right? So I think you said it well. Is not everyone wants to be the best, right? And maybe certain days as an entrepreneur, we don't want to be the best, and other days we do, right? So maybe it's not a one size one or the other, right? But truly understand. I think you said it well for the partnerships, or if you're going into partnership, or you're in a partnership, if you're looking at strategic alliances. I'm even thinking this through like even other levels. Like truly understand what level of work and sacrifice they are willing to make, and you're willing to make for any strategic alliance, for any kind of partnership, for any kind of investment. Like understand that. Like do they have the same relentless, desire to hit targets, right? That you have. Like, are your values with? I think about a relentless value, right? Do they have the same relentless value? Or is it more like I'd like to value, right? That's different. Number three, surround yourself with those who have as much or greater relentlessness to hit the targets, right? And then really be specific. Like it's not just the target, but it's relentless to hit the small milestones, the small checkpoints along the way. I think another quote is I forgot by who, but most people have the will to win, but most people don't have the will to prepare to win, right? A lot of people like want and desire to be the best, right? And but few have the will and desire what it takes to prepare and to practice to be the best. So talk about how you prepare, how you practice, how you sharpen the saw to be the best at what you do. And maybe even how Apple did it too, right? Because you said show up to these meetings and then they want to improve. Like, what was it that not just at work or when you were there or when you're at work, like what are the ways that you're practicing to be the best in what you do? Amazing. We're speaking with Mr. John Weiskopf, and you can learn more about him by going to blueeyedcapital.com. That's blueeyedcapital.com. And okay, so I love all of that, and there's so much wisdom there about asking great questions. Was there when you're going for proposal, right? When you're looking at different insurance, when you're looking at different providers, right? To be sustainable, right? To make the numbers make sense and to make the sustainability make sense. Is there something that you learned from Apple about the proposal process of going out for bids or going out that is there a framework? Is there a checklist? Is there like what how do you approach that when you're looking at, just for like the insurance, for example, you're meeting with how many providers? What is the expectation you're setting up front? Like what is the process for not getting um, uh, overly aggressive about making a decision quickly? Walk us through kind of that approach and mindset and the kind of the timing of everything from when you like start to like when you finish and make the decision. It totally does. That was amazing, John. And I want to pull out just a couple of nuggets here, right? And I think this is probably the key missing piece, although you simplified it, but I think it's so important. I want to start implementing this practice now that I hear this from you, right? A, have a basic understanding of what you're buying. Okay, that makes sense. But are you actually really thinking that and writing that down, right? Like, what is my goal here for buying whatever I'm going to be buying, right? And then key is what is the need that I want to get out of it. So writing those two things down. But I think this is so key before you actually go out for a proposal, before you actually go out to the groups to look at this, have a opinion of what the answer should be. I love that you said opinion because it wasn't necessarily a conviction or a doctrine, like it was an opinion, right? Like you're still saying open-minded. You're still saying on a mindset of you're going to learn because you probably don't know all the things that are to learn about, especially your scenario, senior housing for the first time about this. But at least you have an opinion to start from, right? You have somewhat of a lighthouse to aim for, right? And then the next thing is as you're going out and you have those things written down, and as you're interviewing the different groups, get multiple bids, how are those groups responding to your needs, right? How are they actually responding to your needs or that opinion? How far is that off? Um, Is that a fair summary on that, at least that first part of what you said? Okay. Cool. Well, I love it. I think I'm going to start using it because I feel like sometimes, as entrepreneurs, we can make emotional decisions based upon how we feel, right? But our feelings that we had 3 weeks or a month or a year before about why we needed the thing, we didn't write those feelings down really clearly, right? And then we get on a call with a salesperson or get on a call with or go somewhere. Now it's more of an impulse, back to the impulse control, right? And now we're making decisions where we're like, well, we didn't clarify the scope. And it's not necessarily even that person's fault on the other side. We didn't provide, like, how am I responsible? I could have been clearer on the scope. I could have been clearer on what my outcome wanted to be. I could be clearer on the opinion of what I thought it should look like. And let's ask better questions. We'll give better input to that person, to that group, and you can get a better outcome. Any other thoughts to add to that? It's good for everybody. I couldn't agree with you more. We have a capital gains tax deferral strategy we use called a deferred sales trust. Helps people with Bitcoin, stock, real estate, can save a failed 1031. We call it the Netflix to the old Blockbuster 1031. And what's interesting about it is I feel like at times people, their memories, they forget, like, hey, like 30, 40, 50% of the proceeds into this trust is actually the government's money. We're deferring it and we're using it to compound and build wealth, and they forget. They think, oh, it's all of my money. I'm like, no, that like 30, 40% of it's the government's. Like, no, it's not all your money, right? And we're deferring it, and they're allowing you to use it to build wealth, and now you can live off the interest and get more wealth over time. But I think the key here is really breaking down. Hey, asking. I think as we're entrepreneurs and as we're selling things to folks, right? Hey, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? Like, what matters most to you? What's your understanding of it? Don't assume they understand what they're buying, right? Don't assume they understand the need, right? And actually write it down and like answer these questions. Hey, I want you to go back and do some homework here, right? Especially these big decisions, right? Multi-million-dollar investments or tax deferral strategy or something that's really big. Like, make sure you write this down and we document this so that we can go back to it as like, oh yeah, that's right. We got this because of this, and here's the basic understanding of it. Here is why we're here, because otherwise people forget, and then you're right. Then it becomes the loop of, well, why did I really go into it, or what is it? What is really the facts change, right? Or at least in their minds they change. The facts actually never change. We just didn't clarify the facts. Is that a fair summary? Cool. Thank you so much. All right, cool. Well, hey, we're running out of time. Are you ready for the lightning round? All right. Knowing what you know now, if you could go back to your 20-year-old self, what's the one gold nugget? Make sure to tell yourself to do. Okay, excellent. Question number two. What's the number? There we go. What's the number one book you've recommended the most in the past year? Excellent. Takes what it takes. Okay, excellent. Question number three. What are you most curious about right now? Me too. AI, which leads me to the next question. What's the number one way you're using ChatGPT? Perfect. Next question. Number one leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by. Love it. Great quote. I'm curious. What biggest difference between Tim Cook and Steve Jobs? I don't know if you had a chance to work for both or be under the leadership, but what would you say is like the biggest distinction between the two? Excellent. Very cool. Right. Of course. Of course. Um, Last question, right? And it has to do with stewardship over ownership and kind of everything that we've been talking about today with sustainability and impact. So, in your words, as you're building from millions to billions, right, or helping others do the same, how are you building to impact, and what does that mean to you to be a steward of the gifts you've given, of the wealth you've built, of the folks that you're helping to invest? What does it look like for you? And then what's something you're really passionate about to make a difference in this world for those that are maybe at least a little less fortunate than us? Amazing. Mr. John Weiskopf, spelled Weiskopf, in case you're wondering how that's spelled that, and it's Jon, no H there. I want to thank you for being on the show, sharing a ton of wisdom. I wasn't quite sure where the podcast would go, but I felt like we touched on leadership, social impact, environmental impact, multifamily wealth building. I want to encourage you to keep using your gift of figuring out how things worked and to optimize these things, as well as looking at things, as a sum of the parts, right? And dissecting it, putting together in a way that makes a big impact for the world, especially for attainable, workforce housing and mobile home parks and multifamily. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, remind them one last time what's the best place for them to find you. Amazing. Thank you so much, John. I also want to thank all of our listeners for listening to another episode of the Build It to Billions podcast, where we guide successful entrepreneurs and investors on their journey from millions to billions. We believe that the key to scaling your business and compounding your wealth starts every day with a mindset and practice of stewardship over ownership and applying billionaire biblical principles. Our ultimate goal to help you scale and compound your wealth and life so you can give more or all of it away to help MVPs. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I encourage you to share it with somebody that could be of inspiration to. And I also encourage you to take action on even just one idea that John or I shared today that could help you scale not just from millions to billions, but scale for impact. As well, we touched on briefly on ways to exit highly appreciated assets. If you want to learn more about that, you can pick up the book called Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. It is on Amazon, and it is a best-selling book. We have people like Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank in the book, and it works for Bitcoin, it works for primary homes, it works for business sales, and it gives you the time that you need to make great decisions, all tax deferred. Look at Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. Appreciate everyone out there, and we'll talk to you guys all again and gals real soon. Bye now.